All right, your phone rings. It's a friend of yours who wants you to play on a song with him with his band. And you go, sure, man, is there sheet music for this? He said, no, there's a chord chart. This lesson will help you say, yes, I'll take the gig, I'll be there. Hey guys, Matt Bell with the Electric Violin Shop. First thing we need to understand is that modern music is chord-driven music. It turns out that classical music is too, but none of the players that are playing it really need to know what the underlying chord structure is. Only the composer needs to know. In pop, rock, bluegrass, jazz, it's really helpful to know what chord that you are playing over. Let's talk about what a chord is. A basic major chord is the first, third, and fifth tones of the major scale. A G major chord is G, B, and D, right? So 1, 3. A basic minor chord is the first flat 3 and 5. So G minor, G, B flat, D. One of the most common sets of chord changes in pop music is the 1, 5, 6 minor, 4. Okay, 1, 5, 6 minor, 4. If you don't believe me, you can Google Axis of Awesome. It's a comedy group that does a bit where they play those 4 chords in that order, and they show you that there are hundreds of pop songs that are using those chords. There's a little bit of language in there at the beginning, so if your kids aren't around, have some fun with that. I recorded myself playing acoustic guitar with those 4 chords, and we're just going to go ahead and loop them. G, D, E minor, and C. Okay? So we can start with just the root notes. Okay? D, E, C. See how nicely those lay? See, they lay real nicely over the chords. It's a little dull, so we can try to use the 3 of each chord, right? That's the 3 of the C chord. So that's a little more interesting, still kind of dull. Let's try the 5. Still not the most lyrical thing in the world, but it works, right? We tried the 1, the 3, and the 5 of each chord. What if we started with the root of the 1 chord, and then we picked the closest note to it in the next triad? So say we start with the root of the G chord, the 1. Okay? The next chord is the D chord. The D triad is D, F sharp, and A. So the closest note to G is F sharp. It's only half step away. The next chord is E minor. The E minor triad is E, G, B. So the closest note to F sharp is G again, only half step away. The next chord is C, which is C, E, and G. The closest note is G, so I'm already there. So let's play that line, G, F sharp, G, G. Sort of stays in one spot, but it works and it feels okay. Right? So that's okay. It's an okay line. It sort of works in there, right? Maybe we want to create an ascending line. So let's start on the root of the 1 chord again, G. The next chord is D, which is D, F sharp, and A. The next note up from the G that's in that D triad is A. Next chord is E minor, which is E, G, and B. So the next note up from A is B. And then the next chord is C, C, E, and G. So the next note up from B is C. So let's try that line, G, A, B, C. Okay. So that's more lyrical for sure, right? So you see how this works. Using chord tones alone, we can create lines that work over common chord changes. Now suppose we want to use the G major scale as our home, because we're in the key of G, so that's fair. And maybe we land on a chord tone whenever the chord changes. We go from G to D, we're going to land on a chord tone in the D major chord. Then we can go over what we want after that using notes from the G scale, but always making sure that we're working towards a chord tone from the next chord. So let's try that. It's pretty easy, pretty safe. So you see how I do that. I land on a chord tone from the chord that's coming, and then I can sort of walk around a little bit and find myself working toward a chord tone for the next chord. So it's easy, it's safe, and it's always going to work. This is a good place to stop for now. This allows you to play simple lines over simple changes. We're not breaking any new musical ground here. We're not trying to, right? Often when we're first getting started, we're content to just play something safe and not embarrass ourselves. And that's fine. The more you do this, the better you're going to get. Now, because you're probably going to see some of these notations, we're going to go through some chords and show you that there are more than just major and minor chords out there. Now, a lot of you may know most of this, but we're just going to go through it anyway, okay? So, a C major chord, 1, 3, 5. C minor, 1 flat 3, 5. And then you may see a C7. That is a C chord, and you add the flat 7. There's a C major 7, which is the C chord adding the major 7. You may see a C/E, C over E. That's a C chord with an E in the bass. Now normally, the bass player will play the root, so you've got... But you might see C over E. See how that sort of changes the flavor of that? You can choose to go with the bass player or not. It's up to you. There's a C sus. Technically, a sus can mean more than one thing, but generally in pop music, a C sus means that you replace the 3 with the 4. So you get... Okay, sometimes you'll see a C add 9, which is that you've got your C chord, but you add the 9th, or the 2. It's the same thing. Okay. You can see a C diminished, which is a flat 3 and a flat 5. Sort of the opposite of diminished is augmented, which means you're going to see a C chord with a sharp 5. And then sometimes you'll see a C5. That's a power chord, and we use tons of those in rock and roll. It's just C and G. There's no 3, so it's a little ambiguous as to whether that is a major or a minor chord, and that's sort of what we're trying to create with that feel, right? Sometimes you'll see that as a C, no 3. On the violin, power chords are real easy because we're tuning fifths, right? So that is just some basic chord theory for you. If you see some of those chords in your chord chart music, you'll know what those triads are. So you know I've got to land on one of those triad tones or one of those chord tones, and then I can use the major scale for the key that the song is in to sort of work myself to the next chord tone. That's going to be a really safe thing to do. So pick out a song you like. Maybe one with the same changes. If you want to try these changes, you can use Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. It uses those 4 chords over and over and over and over. Find a karaoke track on YouTube and you just practice along with it. You know, you try to create some of those lines using maybe some different chord theory, some math like we talked about. Just practice that. You know, and then maybe if you get good at that, find one in another key and practice that. And this is all going to start to make sense. Even if you play by ear already, this sort of thing is going to help you understand why you're playing the notes that you're playing. So once you know why you're playing what you're playing, after that you'll sort of be able to figure out what your tendencies are, and you'll be able to break those tendencies. You'll be able to play some some interesting things with different flavors and different textures. Be sure to click subscribe so that you can be notified whenever we put out a new video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.